Saz can't end up on a wipe.
Well, you could just leave them like that. Then you'd have permanent Saz hands. I'd like to take that one back.
What is up, nerdtectives? Welcome back to another episode of Nerds at Night. I am your host, Blake Money Blakeweather, the world's most okayest detective, and we are back for another week talking all about... So if y'all tuned in before, y'all know how this works, and if you haven't, hi new friends, how's it going? Let me give you the rundown on what we do here. We're going to go over our rules for solving a murder mystery, then we're going to go over our recap of this week's episode, go over a few clues, read some of y'all's comments, and then finally go through our suspect board and start to rank new people that we met in this episode. Now let's talk about our rules for solving a murder mystery, because we know murder mysteries work in a certain way. Tropes, characters, things, clues that they do. Every murder mystery has its own formula that it follows, and we have our own formula for solving who the killer is before the end of the case. So what are these rules, you might ask? Rule number 1, you gotta have suspects. Rule number 2, you gotta have clues. Rule number 3, you have to have motivation. Rule number 4, you have to have opportunity. And rule number 5, you always have to have red herrings. We use all of these rules to solve any murder mystery. Now with these rules in mind, let's go ahead and recap this week's episode and see how we can apply these to continue to go ahead and solve this case. So grab a coffee, grab a beer, grab a whiskey, and let's get to recapping this week's episode. The episode starts off with old school footage of Saz doing an interview and Charles grieving over her loss. He attempts to find a very creative way to store her remains left over in his hands and jacket. He then sees an imaginary version of her pop up and have a chat with him. Oliver and Mabel are attempting to recreate the shot that would have killed Saz and track where the shot may have come from. Charles wants to call the cops about Saz being killed, but Oliver and Mabel want Charles to just wait a little bit so they can continue sleuthing before the police are involved. Imaginary Saz keeps popping up and the crew decides to order some luminol and make a clue board. They also deduce Charles was the intended target and go over the notes of clues they took from Saz's place. The crew then decides to go over what they know about the people living in the West Tower. We're given a list of possible new suspects from the West Tower that Charles is able to see from his window. Oliver and Mabel head out to investigate the 14th floor of the West Tower. Charles watches the old documentary we saw a clip of at the beginning of the episode and has a chat with Saz, makes a clue board, and hears a noise in his closet. He goes to investigate and we see the return of Jan. Oliver and Mabel go meet Eye Patch Joe and investigate what kind of vantage point he has and finds out the windows on the west side are painted shut. Joe invites Ollie and Mabel to play Oh Hell at the neighbors and they decide to go. Jan tells Charles she broke out of prison and amidst Charles' concerns, she tells him she broke out because she's worried about Saz. She also wants to know why he called the cops. We return back to Oliver and Mabel and meet the Sauce family. We meet Inez, Alfonso, and their daughter Anna and learn the mom Inez has a big crush on Charles. Oliver and Mabel get into playing Oh Hell while trying to figure out the rules, and we also see something weird is going down in the bathroom involving a knife that's a Westie secret. Jan and Charles reflect on their love for Saz, and Charles mentions his shared phrase, tap in, that he used to tell Saz to stand in for him. Oliver achieves a no hell and gets invited to take a trip to the bathroom with a knife. Oliver finds a ham, or jamon, which is a rare cut of meat the family imported from Portugal. Mabel asks about the one apartment she saw a key lock on. Anna tells her it's the Dudenoff place, and then everyone gets real weird when Mabel asks to get in contact with them. Jan says Saz told her Charles might be in trouble and mentions you only get rid of a body if you killed the wrong person and don't want people to know about it, and insinuates more danger is to come. She flees when Ollie and Mabel arrive back to Charles' place. They fill Charles in on everything they saw, and Charles tries to tell them that Jan was there, but they don't believe him. Oliver and Mabel think they found a keypad combination on the clue board and go back to see if it works. They're able to get in and find more clues, including a radio, a footprint, paint chips, tinsel, and a baby pig. They hear someone attempting to come in, but because the door is double locked, whoever's at the door is stuck outside. They eventually look out of the hallway to find out who it was, but see no one, and instead hear a door close and the pig escapes. Back in the East Tower, Charles is almost too paranoid to leave his apartment to go get the luminol that arrived. He puts on his version of a disguise and attempts to leave, but SWAT breaks in to look for Jan, who they think broke out to hurt him. He says that Jan was there, and his call to the cops finally gets through, and he reports Saz's murder. The crew gets ready to use the luminol while the cops are searching in the incinerator, but Charles needs a moment before they do that. He reflects with imaginary Saz over their misadventures from early in their friendship together. The crew finally luminols the floor and we see where Saz's body was and also see one last message she left with her blood. Our crew looks out the window and sees the West Side crew gathered in the Dudenoff apartment staring right back at them. Oliver accidentally discovers that the key code for the door isn't just a numerical code. It's the word "oh hell" upside down, which points the finger even harder to someone from the West Tower being involved in Saz's murder. killer. As we wrap up the recap, I want to go over some clues that really stood out to me. Let's talk about the Dudenoff apartment. It's clear to see that this is a spot where the crime took place, but let's talk about the ham radio and the tinsel. What is the radio being used for? Because it seems like to me this is a way to communicate with somebody in a manner that's very much under the radar and low key. This could point the finger even more to there being two killers. And if we noticed in Eye Patch Joe's apartment, he also has some radio set up. But wouldn't it be almost too easy to connect these two things together? Let's talk about the tinsel, because while I think the show wants to point the finger to old year-round Kris Kringle, it could be his, or it could be placed there to make that neighbor look like a patsy. Let's also talk about who attempted to enter the Dudenoff apartment while Mabel and Oliver were there, and perhaps why. To me, it seems very clear that this apartment is being used to house a pig, and likely someone was trying to come in to check on it or feed it. This would make sense as we get this line by Charles.
I see the lights go on and off sometimes, but I never see anyone in there.
Clearly, people are coming in and out to check on the pig. This is why it seems pretty open and shut to me. But who attempted to enter? I think in this case it was Eye Patch Joe, as we hear a door close coming from his side of the hallway, and also we clearly see him in the apartment by the end of the episode. And if he was coming to feed the pig, that would make sense. At this point, the pig seems like a Westy Floor 14 secret. Let's last talk about the game Oh Hell, and better yet, how the title of that game is also the code to get into the Dudenoff apartment. How would Saz know this code? Was she perhaps friends with the people in the West Tower? And did she perhaps play Oh Hell with them? Did she befriend somebody in the Westy group only to find out one of them had it in for Charles? And was this what she wanted to reveal to Charles before she died? So those are things that stood out to me. But if you guys caught any major or minor clues, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'd love to check them out because I'm always looking for something new maybe that I missed that you guys catch, and you guys do a tremendous job of it. And speaking of you guys, I want to read some of the tremendous comments you guys left me because, first of all, thank y'all so much for blowing up the comment section. Just know, without y'all, there is no show. So I really, really appreciate it. Love y'all. Thank y'all so much. So for now, let's get into some of the comments that you guys left from last week. So these first two comments coming from Sharon5892, they say, in the first two seasons, we didn't meet the killer until later episodes. Also, they say no character playing themselves will be the killer. They have a reputation to uphold. It will be a fictional character that will be the killer. And then TGRXE2RZ says, the important song plays when we see Scott Bakula, so he's number one on my murder list. So let's talk about this real quick, because I think this is all in reference to Scott Bakula. I did think about it, like he was he was the highest on my list, right? Top suspect. But yeah, you're right. I think the more I think about it, like, would they really get like a fictionalized? I mean, it would kind of be fun if they like got this like fictionalized version of like a real actor to be the. I think that would be a fun idea, something that they could exploit. If it hasn't been done, why not do it? Yeah, I do, and I do agree also too with the point that like in the first three seasons, like right, we don't really actually meet the killer until, you know, I think in the first season, right, we met Jan like in the elevator in like episode 3, and then we met Homegirl, right, Becky or whatever her name was in season 2. We met her pretty early on, but I was reading a comment. Someone says the first time she had speaking lines was like in episode 6 of that season, and I think somewhere around like episode 2 or 3 of season 3, like we actually meet that producer lady. So like I very much agree. Like I don't know necessarily if we've met the killer. We're still gonna rank our suspects, but let's keep that in mind, y'all. Like based on the pattern of like the last few seasons, we hadn't met the killer this we're on. Maybe they'll do it in this season, but just sort of based on how the writers are handling this, probably within the next episode or two, I think we're going to meet the killer. Again, still ranking people, but there's a high likelihood, like next few episodes, we'll see who actually did it. This next comment comes in from CSSS5QF. They say, based on the name clue as I've seen mentioned in Reddit, Jan Bello and Bazoon, Becky Butler and the Butler did it, ? Cliff and falling down from the elevator. Mr. Marshall peeped something, definitely interested. The guy who said just a fly on the wall. Oh yeah. So the writer, right? So maybe the writer, we had him on our suspect list, and he was definitely, I think he was in the middle. We'll take a look at it here in a bit. But yeah, there is like a certain like, again, pattern that the writers do when it comes to the killers and it matching up with something, you know, Butler, Cliff falling down, yada, yada. Like it makes sense. So is there already a name and connection that we can sort of put, you know, sort of pinned down on somebody just yet? I don't know. But again, back to what I was previously saying, I think we meet the killer in the next episode or two. So let's all pay attention to names because it always has something to do with the killer. So let's just always pay attention to that. Amy S79 says Joy may be manipulating Scott into killing Charles. Again, Scott Bakula. Joy, again, I'm just saying there's definitely some funkiness going on there. And she texted him in the last episode of season 3, right? Like Scott Bakula says hi. Like, bro, that's raw. First of all, don't do that. That's wrong. But yeah, I think that there's something more there. So even if them two are not the killer, like there's a little secret going on there that we don't quite know yet. Dan2584 says they brought up Scott Bakula in the pilot episode. I think it's Scott or Saz faked her own death. Yeah, like again, we're talking about Scott Bakula is very high on our suspect list. But this whole theory, and this we'll start it here because there's this whole theory that happened, and I did think about this afterwards. And shout outs to Double P Media. If you guys you guys listen to me, you guys probably check out like other people. Some of them a little bit more entertaining. Some of them, they do their thing. Double P Media, I love his podcasts. Got me through as I was tuning into this episode, and they got me through the first few weeks when, again, not getting a whole bunch of sleep, being a new parent, yada yada. So if anybody knows Double P Media, just tell him I said what's up, man. That dude's dope. But I bring him up because on his first episode last week, he talked about the idea that Saz may have faked her own death, and I swear to y'all, and I even wrote in the comments, I thought about that after I'd already done the video and released it, and I wasn't gonna like add more to it. I was just like, that's unnecessary. It's already, in the YouTube ethers. But I did think about that. I'm like, wouldn't it be the damnedest thing if like Saz faked her own death, sort of threw some other body down there, through some of, she probably has like pieces that she's taken out. Like, you know what I mean? Like she might have some extras, lying around like, oh, this is an old one. I got it replaced with a newer one from Bulgaria, yada, yada. That would be very easy to do. But the more they lean into, and we'll probably get to a few other comments that Saz faked her death, but my answer to that's going to be the more they lean into sort of Saz, I don't know, I wouldn't quite call it a ghost, but this grieving memory that sort of manifested in Saz talking with Charles, the more they lean into that and those emotional points, the less I start to think that this is actually real. I do want to bring up something though. There was a whole bunch of blood, right? Like a blood stain, and we didn't see her bleed a whole bunch when she got shot. I mean, maybe the bullet went through. Like I don't know the physics about all that, but yeah, like that's just something to keep in mind. It could still be an open theory, like, but it went down substantially. If I came into this episode thinking like a 90% chance Saz was still alive, it kind of went down to like 40%. So I don't know. Still keep hope alive, right? I learned my lesson on doing Death and Other Details. Somebody got it right, like in the first episode or two, and then we spent the whole damn season chasing the killer, and somebody got it right like really early on, and it was something like crazy like this. I'm not closing the door on this. That's all I'm saying. Our next comment comes in from Walking Man Pataya. You're very astute with your analysis and prediction. I never try to figure out who done it, just like the show. I'm 67 and love watching Marty and Meryl romance. Steve is also a legendary actor and comedian, etc. Thanks, Nerds at Night guy. Fun to watch. Thank you so much, man. I love it. This show is for all ages. So I love that you're tuning into the show. Love you're tuning in here. And look forward to hearing more from you. Kenya1326 says, I love this show. I was side-eyeing Loretta and Scott Bakula. I think episode 2 will introduce a few new players, maybe our red herring. Absolutely. We got a whole bunch of red herrings in this one and a whole bunch of, people to finger point to, and we'll get into that when we get to the suspect board. J&M Videos 9051 says, I don't have enough information, but I can't imagine an actor playing themselves would be the killer, so Scott Bakula isn't the killer. Loretta might be, but I doubt it. Yeah, again, we're talking about the Scott Bakula thing. Probably not, but, and Loretta, I'm going to tell you this right here. I rewatched, no, I won't tell you yet. I won't tell you yet. There's a little something I want to say, but I'm going to tell you after this next comment because it does have to do with Loretta. Chris Wall 3922, season 1, episode 1, you can hear Jan's bassoon playing in the background. Season 1, episode 10, Becky Butler is standing with Sydney as a trio are escorted out. Season 2, episode 1, Becky Butler is again standing with Cindy. Season 2, episode 10, Oliver gets a call from Donna about the play. Season 3, episode 1, we meet Donna as the producer. There's more to the comment, and I didn't do the read more, but I think the point is, we are meeting the killer as the seasons go on in episode 10, or some sort of connection point to the killer in episode 10. And then it also reflects again in episode 1, right? So again, Jan's Bassoon, episode 1, we don't meet her till 3. But in episode 10 of that season, we see Becky again, season 2. Then the end of season 2, get a call from Donna. Donna's in episode 1 of season 3. So the thing I wanted to point out with Loretta, right, is her son, Dickie. I try to go back to season 3, episode 10, and see which of those characters or mentions of those characters did we see in season 4, episode 1, right? And we didn't see Dickie in season 4, episode 1, wasn't even alluded to, but he was there. And I just have this strange feeling, right? Like, it's a crazy theory. It's a tinfoil theory. Conspiracy theory time right now. But what if Dickie had something to do with it? So I mentioned in the last episode, it was strange that Loretta left town the next night after Saz died. That means Dickie would have gone with her. But that means Dickie was there when Saz got shot. But now he's fled, right? It's just really interesting to me. He's one of the characters that stuck out to me on the rewatch that was like there, could still be in LA with his mom. You know what I mean? I don't know. Some crazy. It's like, could be a crazy. I could be, Stretch Armstrong reaching. I don't know. Something to think about. You guys, what y'all need to do is go through episode 10 of season 3 and then go through episode 1 of season 4 and see if you can find any connection dots. You guys write in the comments if you go through it and you find anything that I didn't catch. And I'll read your comment next week when we go through next week's comments. So this is a big one from 117 Derek. So we're not going to read the whole thing. You guys can read the whole thing if you want to, but I want to focus on this bottom part real quick. So in true Gone Girl fashion, Saz is either faking her death or staging her death. That in either case will lead authorities to believe Charles is a killer. Clues leading the police to Charles might be the reason Bev Mellon, Molly Shannon is so anxious to get the life rights from the trio. If she's an accomplice with Saz, she could use Charles' life rights info, feeding clues to the police as part of revenge plot and destroying Charles's reputation. See, this is great because this leads even more credence to the Saz is still alive. And I think that there was a lot in this episode that perhaps pointed to maybe this, right? Like there's little tidbits that could point to this. So let's think about this. Like there was a lot of this episode where we see Saz reflecting on her life, doing this, the little documentary about, being a stunt performer, yada, yada. And some of the things that stood out was like, always being the fall guy, always taking the bullet and coming back up. And then another thing that stood out to me. So like, listen to that. Cause there's a lot of like little, like, is this a little little Easter egg that I'm missing? Also, when Charles was telling the story, if you remember, about Saz bringing people to like come and hang out and play poker with him, I honestly think that they could use that like and flip it on its head. And I'll tell you what I mean. She could have been pranking him and being like, oh, I'm going to make Charles feel like really bad or like, have a laugh at him. And then he reversed Uno card it and was like, yo, let's actually play poker and be friends. But when he's told her, you brought me new friends, there was this sort of like weird silence from her. I could be digging into things really too much, but this was like, she'd like kind of just acknowledged it like, yeah. It wasn't like, yeah, that's exactly what I did for you. There very much could be pieces in this episode that are used to back that Saz is actually getting revenge on Charles. I'm not doubting it. Again, it went down a little bit lower, but there's little tidbits that you can sort of connect the threads to be like, the plot thickens and it's still going on. And yeah, Saz is trying to get a revenge. So I don't know. Look out for that. And if you notice any of the one-liners that I'm mentioning, drop it in the comments. And then our final comment right here is from Dave Davis, 8786. Sometimes the question isn't who wants to kill someone, but who wants to frame someone. Charles might have enemies, but perhaps in this case, it was an enemy of one of those enemies. If Charles were murdered, the immediate suspects would be Joy, Bakula, and understandably Matthew Broderick. Or maybe someone associated with the movie figured that it would be a much bigger hit if one of the subjects of the film had been murdered recently, generating a media frenzy. Charles is a celebrity, but he's much more interesting as a guy who was murdered in his own apartment. This is interesting because if we think back to the last episode, and I'll show you where I'm going with it, but if we think back to the last episode, right, there's two people that get an email from Bev Mellon. It's old Mabel and Charles. Homeboy Ollie does not get an email. And I thought that that was rather interesting. And I'm going to tell you why. Again, could be looking into it. But if everybody's seen the movie Glass Onion, if you haven't seen it, just fast forward past this comment. That way, I'm about to spoil some shit. If you remember at the beginning of the movie, so spoiler alert right now. If you remember at the beginning of the movie, they all get boxes, right? And even a box is sent to, oh God, what's her name? Cassandra, right? That's the sister that died, right? The sister got poisoned by Edward Norton's character. She even gets sent a box. And it's interesting because, like, why would she get sent a box? And it was to show, like, right, like, oh, there's no way that the billionaire dude could have known homegirl was going to be dead. He sent her a box, right? And so this could be one of those things, right? Like, it, think of the emails like the boxes. Like Bev Mellon is sending the emails, maybe not knowing if Charles is even alive yet. It could be like a tester. She could be like, I didn't know he was dead, right? I sent him an email. It could be a really malicious thing in disguise of like being a nice thing. So that's something to think about because that does make sense. Like there is more, these guys are doing a podcast, they're making the movie, yada, yada. And all of a sudden one of the people die. Oh my God. Like what better media attention than, oh my God, one of the most famous podcaster crime people died while they're making a movie. Whoa, is this movie going to be about that? Like, and so I see where you're going with that, Dave Davis, and I'm not mad at it, actually. Again, appreciate all the love and all the comments. You guys keep sending in clues and crazy theories because some of them might be true, and we still got a long ways to go before we piece this all together. So continue to drop the comments, and I'll continue to read them for y'all. In the meantime, though, and now that we're done with that, it's everyone's favorite part of the show, the suspect board. We got a few new suspects this week, so let's get them on the board and let's rank them right now. All right, y'all, this is our suspect board from last week. Obviously, we have Scott Bakula at the top. Bev Mellon is still in there. Again, especially after what I just said about the emails. Could be, a bit more malicious than we think. Still got Zach Galifianakis, Howard, the Brother Sisters, the writer dude, Eugene Levy, Eva Longoria, Loretta, and then down at the bottom, of course, we have Mabel, Charles, and Ollie. But this week, we got 6 new people that we met. So let's go ahead and rank them. We've got Eye Patch Joe. And Eye Patch Joe is interesting. I'm going to put him in maybe because, again, I still suspect him of being the one who was trying to get into the apartment. And again, like somebody brought up on a different video, like, I think it was Double P. Again, shout out to Double P. Sometimes you use an eye patch for shooting, right? Like we all saw the Olympics very recently. People use an eye patch or they're covering one eye, yada, yada. Could that actually be the reason? But like he's flinching the whole time, so I don't think so. But he's got a little twitch going on. So I don't think that, but I do think I do think a lot of the people, and we'll get into the rest of the suspects, a lot of people on this floor, they got some secrets, and I need to find. I can't move them down until I found out what they are. We got Jan, who's back, and I'm gonna go with a probably not. I don't want to put her in no way, but it likely she belongs in no way. But I'm putting her in probably not. Like she's here to be a helpful bad guy. She's a helpful bad guy role. It's funny, like she's a similar role to, if you ever seen 23 Jump Street, when the guys that they arrested from the first movie, they got to go back to jail to go talk to him in jail to go find out more information. Very Hannibal Lecter-y, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think Jan she's still a bad guy, but I don't think she has anything to do with this. I think she loved Saz too much. Then we got the Sauce family, and I'm gonna put them all right here for right now. Well, I'm gonna put 2 of them right here for right now, Alfonso and Inez. I want to put them more to I wish I had like an in between, like probably not, but maybe. Like they're probably not, but maybe, right? But I want to put Anna up here. It's always the quiet ones in the room, right? It's always the ones you least suspect that be the ones that be killing people. I've watched enough murder mysteries to know the quiet ones we got to watch them. We got until further notice. We got to watch them. Yeah, I think it was a little too obvious with the husband, right? When he's like, I could, I wanted to off him because my wife loved him, and then I think the wife, I wouldn't be surprised, like. The wife maybe is a little bit closer to maybe highly suspicious, right? Like the whole like, I love him so much. Maybe she loves him so much. Like obsession is, people kill for less is all I'm saying. So she could be so obsessed that she wanted to kill Charles. I don't really know yet. We need a little bit more information. Also, can we shout out something real quick? They had a ham hanging in their bathroom. That is called jamon. No, I heard nobody, and it might just be because I'm Mexican and Spanish, but like, I heard nobody talking about jamon. This is an actual thing. Like, it's such a rare like delicacy. It's very expensive cut of meat. Like, you can Google it; it'd be like couple like high couple hundred, like almost $1,000, 800, $1,200, 1,300, $1,400. It just for that leg, just for that cut of ham. So it's like a real thing. And for some reason, I don't know. I think I had it written down on my notes. It was something to the effect of, these fools is not eating ham in the bathroom. Because for some reason, I just thought, I'm like, that knife, that particular knife, maybe it's because I watched too much foodie shorts or whatever. But like, I'm like, I've seen that knife. They use that boning knife, and they be cutting up them little pieces and eating them and be like, this is so good. I knew they were eating something. And I, for some reason, I was like, is it expensive ham? Do they have a whole leg of ham in there? And sure enough, they did. Jamon. Look it up. Jamon, because I know some of y'all did not pass Spanish class. So just Google it and you'll see, like, yeah, it's expensive as fuck, man. But anyways, back to these guys. They like eating ham in the bathroom, but I don't think that they like killing people. But again, the daughter, a bit suspicious. She's just a bit off in the head. I don't know. Them young kids nowadays, eating Tide Pods and everything, they could be shooting people. Who knows? And now let's get to old Father Christmas over here. And I'm going to put him in maybe until we know more about him. We see it. It's never the ones, usually, right? In murder mystery, I'm probably going to put him in probably. It's a hot take. I'm going to put him in probably not, because it's always the one they be mean mugging and he's lifting weights. He's trying to get his pump on, man. He's trying to get his pump on. And eating a candy cane at the same time. That is smart. His carbs in, and he's just burning carbs. Hitting them 1-2s. But yeah, I don't think it's never the ones that look angry, right? And especially with the tinsel that they found in the Dudenoff apartment. I think it's all that to say, like, people in floor 14 just go to that floor, be hanging out and watching the damn pig, like, because it didn't look like anybody like really truly stays there. It just looks like, again, with the lights going on and off, like Charles said, it just seems like that's exactly what they'd be doing in there. So could he have been in there, or could somebody have been in his apartment and took some tinsel and put it in there, right? Now that I'm thinking about this, is what makes sense to frame him, to set him up. Like, and I'm be surprised if he's a patsy before the end of the episode. People are like, oh my God, by episode 8, they're like, you did it because of all this other Christmas apparel or whatever. And he's like, no, but I had this one person in my apartment, and, then they were the ones who took some stuff and then started, spreading a little Christmas joy around to point the finger to him. So I don't think he did it at all. But I'm interested to meet him. See what he's got to say. But yeah, that's our board this week. I'll do one for y'all real quick. I'll take old Scott Bakula, and I'm going to move him to highly suspicious. We don't have a top suspect right now. That's something for y'all. Y'all give yourselves a round of applause out there. We're moving Scott Bakula down, and he may go down further and further. And we may need to, when we meet Joyce, I think we meet Joyce or Joy in this season, we may need to move her on up because Scott Bakula don't give a shit about Charles, man. Like, but Joy does. Joy probably them. Women be hurt in these seasons. That's all I'm trying to say. So what y'all think of the suspect board this week? Do y'all agree? Is there somebody that should be higher, should be lower? And let me know any of your favorite like lines or anything, or any minor clues that you think I might have missed. I'm always on the lookout for things. I watch a lot of videos to try and pick up stuff. I rewatch the episodes like a lot for like after the episode comes out, I probably watch the episode anywhere from like 4 or 5 times, or I'll have it going. I'll like listen to it while I'm at the gym just to be like, are there lines that stick out that I didn't catch the first time? Yeah, I try to really dig into these episodes for you to find every little bit that we can juice out of this and find unique stuff that people aren't talking about. So yeah, all that to say, I probably watch these episodes too many damn times, but this has been another awesome time with y'all. Be sure to hit that subscribe, like button if you're not already. Do all the YouTubey things. Feel free to check out the channel for other murder mystery shows and movies that I've broken down. And in the meantime, y'all can follow us on all your favorite social medias, whether it's X or Instagram. You could type in Nerds at Night, and we're right there. And if you're there, you can feel free to follow me, Money Blake Weather, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. Again, so good hanging with y'all for another week. I look forward to all y'all thoughts. I look forward to the next episode. I look forward to gathering more clues. And as usual, whether it's morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time you're listening to this, I do appreciate you. And until the next time, I will see you. Peace.